Hi.
Hello,
How's it
how are
going?
you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good there.
Good.
I think I, our good friend Daryl should be getting on any moment now.
Yeah, he just texted me, so he is popping in. Yeah, you guys are going to have to bear with me because my allergies are really bad right now, and I've
Sure,
been
no
I've
problem.
been sneezing and sniffling and coughing. You should see
Oh
my
no.
my car is covered in yellow pollen. It's just yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. And I don't even park under a tree. It's just sitting in the driveway.
wow.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Wonder is he showing up yet?
Yeah. Yeah, I just let him in.
There he is. Aha.
Yeah. Cool.
I see you, Daryl.
Hey, Ruben, how are you, sir?
Good. You guys sound real good.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So we have Daryl Owen, who is an author and a Bigfoot enthusiast. And then we have Ruben Uriarte. Is that how you pronounce it? Uriarte?
Yes, very
Okay.
close. Yeah,
Yeah.
Uriarte.
Uriarte. Okay. And, sorry. And who is also an author and a alien, I guess, UFO enthusiast, right?
Yeah, investigator. Yes,
Investigator, just researchers. Yeah,
researcher.
sorry
Yes.
about that. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so how are you guys doing?
Good, good. Are we being recorded for a program right now,
We are.
or
Yes, we are. Yep.
oh God.
Sorry.
I didn't understand that. Okay.
Surprise.
Oh wow. I would have worn my uniform. No.
It's okay.
Oh,
It's just podcast, so we're not on camera. It's just our voice. So,
Oh,
I,
okay.
I, I have my uniform on. You see that?
uh-huh. I do. It's kind of creepy.
It says MUFON on it, so I'm okay.
Cool. So I really wanted to talk to you guys about the alien Bigfoot connection, and that's why I wanted to have both of you together. So,
Very good.
yeah. So how should we?
Well, I'll start it out here,
Okay.
and I'll tell you how Ruben and I kind of connected is
Hmm.
that I had a Bigfoot sighting in Reading at the SETI network, which is a search for extraterrestrial something up there. And didn't have anybody to turn to, so I contacted Ruben, and we had met at a MUFON meeting in Hayward, California, and that was about what 7 years ago, 8 years ago,
Appro-
something like that.
Approximately, yes.
And so that has been our connection so far with the UFO Bigfoot connection, and we've kept up to date. Ruben and I both would write each other or call each other like we usually do, and talk in regards to the UFO connection. Um, Bigfoot is a very mysterious creature, as are all aliens, the grays, the reptoids, or however you want to pronounce that. Ruben, you can jump in here anytime you want. But for us, Bigfoot is definitely a very mysterious creature. The Indians call him the Great Creator. The Native Americans have named him the Wopecamau. He's the man in the flowered house. He is the great creator. They also call him the boss of the mountain. Now, the Native American Indians believe that being the great creator, Bigfoot can come and go as he pleases, and he can teleport from one place to the next. Nobody's ever going to kill it. There's a few researchers out there that honestly believe that is the truth. I believe in the same thing. Now, here, just in the past couple years of my 31 years of being a researcher in the Bigfoot stuff, I am far from being an expert. So I tell people I am nowhere near an expert, and the reason why I'm not an expert is because I don't have a body sitting in my closet. But I will tell you, of all of the 31 years that I have been doing Bigfoot research, I have seen footprints in snow walk out to the middle of a field and disappear. And just in the past couple of years, I have had some really strange experiences in regards to exactly the same thing. The footprints would walk out into an open field and just disappear, and there's nowhere for it to go. It has to be teleporting, has to be an interdimensional creature of some sort. And I've discussed this, with Ruben. I've also taken 331 reports since December of last year to yesterday.
Wow.
Those are my 331 emails, and out of those 331 emails, 26 of them talks about seeing a Bigfoot and lights in the sky. Some of them talk about actually seeing a disc or some sort of, I want to call it the Marfa lights, where they see bright lights in the trees. And then a couple hours later, they see a Bigfoot. So I do believe that there's some kind of connection between the two. Now, I know that with Ruben being the one of the I'm sorry, one of the directors of MUFON, I kind of drop in and I kind of give Ruben I try to give Ruben updates when I have reports like this, because I've never personally in my life ever seen a UFO. It's not that I don't believe in them; I just have never seen one.
Mhm.
And but I have seen 3 Bigfoots in my lifetime. So, and I have a lot of physical proof of Bigfoot. Um, Here's just kind of an example of the kind of things that I take. I don't know if you can see that because I can't see a picture of myself on my phone, but this is the kind of things that I've collected.
We can't
Um,
see it. I
you
can't see
can't
it.
see, huh?
No.
How about right there? Can you see it now?
Nope.
No,
No, all we see is the Sasquatch.
no. Oh, is that all you see?
Yeah.
All right.
That's all
Let
we're
me see.
seeing. There's a way
Oh,
with Zoom to capture the videos and or the
okay.
pictures. I don't quite remember how to do that, but
Yeah, there's
it's
like
going to
I
be
don't.
on your controls there,
Mhm.
Michelle.
Yeah, so let's see. I don't think it's on my end. Maybe? No, No, okay, so
Well,
Daryl, it would probably be on the Zoom program. There's 2 buttons, one that says mute and one that says start video.
I
There's
don't.
one that says share screen,
Mm-hmm.
and you might be able to. But you're on your phone, right, Daryl?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that'll work. But
Well, go ahead, Ruben, and I'll sit here and try to figure out what I'm doing here. Okay.
oh, okay. Well, thank you, Daryl. As Daryl had indicated, Daryl came to one of our meetings that we're having up in the Sacramento area, and I belong with MUFON Mutual UFO Network, and our primary focus is on the investigation of UFOs, and primarily that could be any kind of object that's seen by witnesses, and once in a great while, there might be something more unusual besides just the sighting of an object. It could be sighting of the occupants,
Oh.
or seeing these or something else at what we call a cryptid,
Mm-hmm.
which could be an anomalous animal, for example, which Bigfoot, and you've heard stories of Dogman.
Mm-hmm.
Although our focus is strictly more into the science of investigating the objects, we also, once in a great while, will have people reporting something more unusual. And over the years, there have been some very interesting cases where people have observed a Bigfoot like creature close to these bright orbs or some sort of craft.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, that's the big question: is what is there a connection? And that's been looked at by a number of people. I yes and no is usually some of the responses, but um, over the years, from what I've been gathering, yes, it looks like there could be a connection. So then the question is, well, where's the origin? Why is Bigfoot here? Then you have another viewpoint, I believe, primarily from the Bigfoot community, where they may say, well, it's it's a creature, an Earth-like creature, um, Gigantopithecus. Is that
Hmm.
how I pronounce that? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Gigantopithecus blackie.
yeah.
Hmm.
And because there was a creature like that was roaming North America way back, also in Asia, from what I understand.
Hmm.
I'm extremely interested in the whole Bigfoot phenomena because there is a similarity between conducting investigations um, on both sides of the phenomena. For example, you get people that will report something unusual. Um, Normally, they are very they want to know what they saw. You know, was it an actual object, or was it something that well, it's not made up from by them, but you know, it can it be explained. Um, the other is the stigma behind it.
Hmm.
One of the issues that we deal with UFOs is that people are afraid to make reports because they're concerned by what their family members may say or other people, and that there's something wrong with them. And quite frankly, no, there's nothing wrong. It's a matter of gathering the report. And I believe, Daryl, you went through something like that in dealing in your community, and um, you know, this is the same profile where people had seen strange objects but were afraid to file a report or afraid to say
Yeah.
anything. But
There-
I was just wondering if you wanted to elaborate about your experience that you had.
Well, I
And
got chased out of a community, and can you guys see me now? By the way,
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
yeah, you got the
So,
official
so,
T-shirt.
Yeah.
so, so let me catch back up. This is why I do this.
Oh, wow. Nice.
You see that?
Yeah.
So this is why I do what I do.
Hmm.
This is my baby. So this is one of
Mm.
my babies. There's 100 more of these in the garage. So
Oh, my goodness.
how,
Lovely.
how big is that footprint?
this
Would
is
you estimate,
19.
Daryl?
This is 19 by 9.
Wow. That is
19 inches in length and
huge.
9
Yes, sir.
inches in width.
And
God,
and
that's huge.
so
That's
let me show you
bigger than
something else.
average too, isn't it? Like the average ones are maybe just a little bit smaller than that.
Average is between 16 and 18 inches.
Okay.
So Ruben, you're familiar with this, I'm sure. You remember this?
Oh, that is such so phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
This
That
is
is.
my beautiful. This is my big boy's handprint. So
Wow.
there's the hand.
Oh my goodness.
So this
Ah,
is my this is my other hand, my
that's
handprint.
that's
So
enormous.
How big of what's the size of that handprint there?
that is 16 from the palm to the middle finger,
16
and
inches in length, huh? Wow.
16 here, and
Wow.
12 from here to the tip of the thumb. So it's big enough to wrap around my face like a hugger.
Wow.
So I will
That is
go.
so fascinating.
So, but that's just a piece of the puzzle that we're trying to fix. You know what I mean? We're always looking for something. In 1992, when I first saw my first Bigfoot, we lived in a very small community in Klamath, California, and our neighbors became just monsters. I mean, I saw a monster in the trees, but my neighbors were worse than the monster. You know, they ridiculed my kids. They painted hoax on my doors. They painted my garage door. They made it horribly, horribly bad for us to even live there.
Mhm.
We ended up selling our home, moved to Crescent City, California, which was about 12 or 13 miles from Klamath. And I ended up I know you guys don't want to know my life history, but I got divorced and I just kind of became nobody. I put it all away. I just stopped doing it.
No.
But people still recognize you, especially, and Ruben, you'd know this. You're on TV a lot, as so am I. People recognize you and they say, we saw you on TV. But the problem with it is that people don't want to talk about Bigfoot because they think you're strange. They think you're an odd person.
Mhm.
You're making it all up. And I've always told people, people say, well, I don't believe in Bigfoot because I've never seen one. Well, and I'm kind of a smart bottom. And I want to say, I said, well, have you ever seen God?
Right.
And they kind of step back a little bit. Well,
Mhm.
I believe in both. I'll be honest with you. I believe in both,
Mhm.
but people do not like making reports. And I was just in the newspaper here, the headlines of the newspaper here. It's called the Cleveland Daily Banner. And the people that I did the story for and casted the prints for, they absolutely refused to talk to the reporter. They just knew that they were in for, because this is a very small town also.
Mhm.
We're right in the middle of the Appalachians. But people here see Bigfoot on a regular basis. But they just absolutely, there's no way, don't take my picture, don't come around me. I've seen him at the grocery store once. And they looked at me like I had some kind of bubonic plague or something, or I was, and just stay away from me. Don't talk to me, because if I see you with me or me with you, they're going to know it was us. So,
Mhm.
but even for UFOs, the reports that I take, I'll call the people or I'll call the folks and say, well, tell me your story. Well, don't tell anybody. I'm not going to tell anybody. That's the first thing I tell somebody. I'm not going to tell anybody anything.
Mhm.
Everything is very, very quiet. So I don't do a whole lot of, I do a lot of questions. I'm not as thorough as MUFON. Now I've gone on the MUFON page and tried to fill out one of the forms for a UFO sighting. I looked at it. I shouldn't say I tried to fill one out, but I looked at it, and it's several pages long, multiple hundred questions, I would say. My close, Ruben.
Yes. A
And
series
so,
of questions. Yes.
and a Bigfoot report is, I saw a big hairy guy cross the road in front of me at Wind the Trees. End of story, because it was on Highway 64, so
Mhm.
there's not a whole lot of detail that you can get into describing Bigfoot. And then you go out and you do the investigation, you see if there's footprints, you try to talk to the people. And I'll be honest with you, I tried to get them to tell me something different the second time. If they tell me something different the second time, then I know it's a fib. But I still do my due diligence. And every time I take a Bigfoot report, I always ask them if they remember seeing anything weird in the sky prior. Did have one report. I'm reading it, you guys. So give me just a sec. I had a report about 3.5 weeks ago. It was between here and Knoxville. It's in the Appalachians. Hunter and his son were out hunting. They got a loud ringing in their ears,
Wow.
and everything went quiet. There was no sound. There was no bugs. There was no bird chirping. The trees, they said the wind was blowing slightly, which it does here a lot. They couldn't hear the trees blowing, they couldn't hear that anymore. And then they saw a very bright light. Their ears were ringing. And the father remembers trying to get his son back to the car. And on the way back to the car, they did hear and see a howl. He did record the howl. I do have a copy of that. I call it the Emery howl. And they did hear a howl, which is kind of abnormal, but they got back to the car. And the strange phenomenon is that, as always, there's always trouble with the car, you know.
Mhm.
But after the light disappeared, and they saw I'm sorry, I think that was my phone. I'm sorry. Once they got back to their car, the car wouldn't start. The father had to get out and move the jumper cables or the battery cables. Car started, light disappeared. They're flipping around in a Huey, and there is a Bigfoot running across the road in front of them. So, needless to say, they're not going back. Then they gave me a call. I went out and talked to them, and I believe their story. I believe the son more than anybody because he didn't even want to talk to me. So,
Mm-hmm.
you got to remember, people make fun of you, and I've been made fun all my life. I'm 61 years old, and I still take a ridiculing, and I get harassed a lot. So, back to
Yeah.
you, Ruben.
Yeah.
Actually, if I can make a comment, I was thinking too, when somebody sees something like that, I would think that it would take a lot of time to resonate. And for some people, it might also be traumatic, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
and they might just dissociate from it and not want to talk about it because they don't want to feel that.
Right. Well, my first Bigfoot, I will tell you guys, I peed my pants. I'm, I'm
Yeah.
not ashamed. I've said that since the day I saw it. I'm on A&E's Ancient Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it. I learned in the military because I'm ex-military that I should never turn my back to something. If you're in danger, never turn your back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And on the film itself, I said I looked for it. I looked at it for 30 seconds, which is not exactly the truth. It was actually a minute and 30 seconds, but there was a minute in there that I had actually blacked out.
Wow.
And I had urinated my pants. It had scared me so bad. I
Mm-hmm.
was unarmed. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't carry a gun with me ever when I go out. I should, but I don't.
Right.
But I blacked out. And I think, honestly, I believe the creature itself spoke to me telepathically and told me to turn around because he wanted to get out of there.
Huh.
And if he moved, I would have got a better picture because, believe it or not, it was in focus.
Wow.
And you know, so once again, we're going into the big dimension, the outer
Mm-hmm.
dimension part of it, where they speak telepathically to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're UFO related. Are they aliens or not? I couldn't tell you if they're aliens or not.
Right.
But I'm going to be honest with you, and I don't think anybody's ever going to kill one because I think it has that. Um, I don't think people can do it. I
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
think it can, talk to you mentally. I'm sorry, it's late here, so my thought process is slow. So, but when I get my reports, I always ask people, "Did you see anything strange in the sky?"
Mm-hmm.
A lot of out of all of my 331 emails last year of reports, 26 of them all said they saw lights in the sky.
Wow, that's a
So,
good number.
It's amazing.
Daryl, I was curious on your very first sighting. Did you see the face of the creature? Were you able
I
to
did,
see?
I did,
And
sir. It was
can you describe the detail just for?
Well, the creature that I looked at was about 7 to 8 feet tall, probably 400 or 500 pounds. He was beige in color. He had long beige hair. He blended in very well with the trees because it was in March. It was pretty good in there. Um, but the thing about it is that we saw a set of red eyes in a hole under this
Wow.
great big redwood. And there was a big hole, and there was two red eyes. The red eyes were going back and forth, looking at myself and another gentleman that was with me. And as we were watching it, I got up on a stump. I wanted to get closer to it because I was going to go up and come around the back side of it and then come down behind it and try to get down in there, young and stupid and brave.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got up on the log, and then I noticed just to the right of me, about 30 feet away, there was a big male standing there, and I won't tell you how I know it's a male, but you'll get the picture.
Wow.
I saw his arm top of his head. If you take Harry and the Hendersons
Mm-hmm.
and put long beige hair on him, you have a perfect match. It
Yeah.
doesn't look anything like Todd Standing's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it doesn't look like anything like that. You know, Ron Moorhead's thing. There, he was big. He was really big. He was double the size I was. But the thing about it is that he was looking at us. He would turn his head. He's looking at whatever was in that hole with those two big red eyes. And then he'd look over at us. And then he'd look back down at the red hole, at the hole where the red eyes are at. Then he looked at me finally, and then he lowered his brow and did like one of these, like this. And his hair kind of fell down, but he was looking me right in the eyes. And I lost it. I mean, I started to cry. I mean, I'm 6'1", I weigh 240 pounds. I was in the military, not afraid of anything. And it just spoke to me. It was like, turn around, you know, I got to
Wow.
turn around. I don't want to look in its face anymore. I don't want to see it anymore. So I just turned my back to it, which is something you should never do to a wild animal. Never turn your back to anything.
Right.
And I did. I dropped the camera. I blacked out. The guy that was with me came over and woke me up and said, "We got to get back down the hill. What were you looking at?" I didn't see it. Well, I saw it because I filmed it. So,
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
but I did lose control, which it scared me pretty bad. I cried. I'm not a proud man to say I cried. You know, got back down to the house, started making phone calls for anybody to help me. Ended up getting Al Hodgson out of Willow Creek. He came to the house and he took us back up the hill. We casted a whole bunch of footprints. Al was very educational. He lived in Willow Creek, had the Hodgson store there. He died several years ago. And then just a couple of years ago in 2017, 2018, I think, I did do one last time to Willow Creek. I was actually the Grand Marshal of the parade. And I gave I gave Terry some footprints to put in the museum. And I have pictures of all that if you guys would like to see them all.
Nice.
If I recall, Daryl and Michelle, what was the name of the area? Willow Pass or
Willow Creek.
Which Willow Creek.
Willow Creek? That
Yeah,
was
Willow
where
Creek.
the Patterson film
Yes.
was
Mm-hmm.
taken.
Yes, sir. 1969. It's the Patterson Gimlin film.
Yep.
So it's a hot spot,
It is.
that area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not far from there. Ruben, remember the fires and just
Yes.
outside of Redding? You live in California.
Mm-hmm.
We got calls up there during the fires. And if you remember me talking to you while I was in California, I was getting calls from battalion chiefs because their men were seeing the Bigfoots running down the hill.
Jeez.
And we
Wow.
casted. I wish I had the prints in here, you guys. I'm so sorry I don't. But we casted. Well, let me go back here. I'm sorry. When the battalion chief called me and he told me to come up, I went up. And he took me right to the fire spot, and it was just on the outer skirts of Mount Shasta.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up there, and I went up with him, and we got up to the hill, and we talked to the firefighters. They call them jumpers or something like that. They were jumpers, and there was a lot of that red fire suppressant stuff everywhere. So when you'd walk on it, you would leave really good footprints.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about 2.5 miles in and coming down the hill, headed down towards, what is that, highway, what's that, 5 now?
Yeah.
That ran through Redding?
Yes.
Highway 5 headed towards, you cross the freeway, you go towards Brownsville and Clipper Mills or Clipper Gap, or whatever, Clipper Mills.
Mm-hmm.
But he was going down the hill. There's 4 sets of prints. You couldn't see where they started because you couldn't get up the hill because it was still smoldering. But down the hill, we casted a hold on. I'm sorry. I know we only have 40 minutes. Here we
That's
go.
okay.
Okay, I casted a 20-inch daddy print,
Wow.
16-inch mama print,
Wow.
an 11-inch baby, and a 7-inch toddler. What I'll call a toddler.
Oh my goodness.
So 20, 16, 11. Okay, so yeah. So we casted the 4 prints. We took out probably 16 prints or so out of there.
Wow.
And the battalion chief was like, my firemen won't even go back up there now. They're too afraid to go up there. I said, they're not going to hurt you. They
Yeah.
want to escape just like everybody else wants to escape,
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, but,
Yeah.
and then again, once again, during the fires, firemen saw things that they didn't want to talk about. And one of them was lights and, silver metallic objects floating around. A lot of them said it was like balloons, but balloons can't make 180-degree turns, can't shoot straight up in the sky. And then you see the Bigfoot. So, I do honestly believe that there is a connection somewhere
Yeah.
with UFOs and Bigfoot. So,
Yeah.
Daryl, I was thinking too that with this phenomenon, the evidence there is evidence, and that's basically the footprints that you've been collecting. And sometimes that happens with UFOs. We'll have a craft or an object that'll land, and there'll be a either burnt vegetation or an imprint. And sometimes that just and sometimes there might be some other factors. Could be radiation, for example, that can be measured. That something unusual had landed. Of course, in some cases, sometimes the craft is still there, but then that's might be involving more of the military, and if it's a crash, a retrieval. But going back, if I recall too, and then this was floating around the internet back when we had the Mount St. Helen volcano that exploded, and I believe a number of people, of course, were killed by the explosion of the volcano, and then there was some some observations made that they found some very large, unusually large bodies. Um, this was I remember
7.
reading that. Pardon me?
7.
7 bodies.
7 bodies.
Wow. I know you probably came across something like that too.
I met a lady. She was a veterinarian, a DVM. Is what she went by in Coloma, California. One time when we were doing an investigation, we stopped off to have some lunch, and we were talking with the people there because we had just done an investigation there. We had actually done an investigation off of Highway 49 in Sutter's it was Sutter's Mill at the time. And we had gotten chased off the property by the emus and the ostriches. So it was kind of a joke going around that the birds were bigger than we were, and I had ruffled some feathers and things like that. But that, one of the ladies came up and wanted to talk to me, and we were leaving, and I felt like I was being rude to her because I was tired and I wanted to go home. But a couple of years later, she sent me a letter when I had my website put up. My website is no longer up anymore because it was taken down. Let's just say it was taken down. But anyways, I got a letter from her, and she talks about us talking at this place. And she was a DVM. She was hired by the military to go out there and do carnage damage, to count bodies, not bodies, but animal deaths, deer and elk and things like that. And one of her friends, who was a photographer, had been killed on Mount St. Helens when it erupted. And she, with a group of other people, other DVMs and their associates and things, they all had a map that was outlined where they needed to go, where they needed to be. And they went out there and they did their body count, or keep saying body. I'm sorry, their animal count. And she had noticed there was a lot of military vehicles coming into this one spot, and it was a cleared out area. And she was on a kind of a mound looking down over, and they had a gate up, and there was guards. And so this group of people decided to follow the vehicles up to the gate, and they weren't allowed to go in the gate itself. They were stopped there. And even though that she was an invited person by one of the high ranking officers to be there, they would not allow this group of people to go inside the fence. So they split up. Well, this lady said that she kind of went up the hill and kind of hid, and the helicopters would fly in. They had these certain kind of bags. There was these big bags. I think she said there was gray and yellow bags. I'm sorry, I don't have the letter in front of me. And the bags were extremely large. They actually had to pick the things up with a forklift. So,
Wow.
you know, we as human beings, I myself have picked up a deceased body. You know, it takes two men to pick up a body, but these things required a forklift. And she said, as big as the tarps were, it wouldn't reach the top of the head or the bottom of the feet. They were still hanging out the top of the head, and the feet were still hanging out from the bottom of the tarp. So a tarp is 9 feet wide and usually 10, 14 feet long.
Yeah.
So there was these things, and I'm going to say things, and they were being loaded onto helicopters, CH-47s, which is a twin helicopter, twin blade helicopter, can carry a lot of like Jeeps in a tank, something like that. Well, they counted seven of these bodies that were wrapped in these plastic that were being loaded onto these helicopters. And she tried to go in here, and the guard stopped her, told her, get away. You can't come down here. But she knows for a fact that she was close enough for them to see it, that they weren't human. They were hairy everywhere. They were hairy on the top of their head. They were hairy on their legs. They witnessed them moving them in and out of this tent. And they had certain people that were there that were taking pictures. They had this really strange barrier up where people on the outside, if you're standing down there, couldn't see in, but she was above them looking down. And she swears on a stack of Bibles. And I told her, I says, I don't want you fibbing me here, because I'm going to share your story with MUFON, which Ruben, I believe I sent you the note, And I said, she says, you can share my note, just take my name out of it. But she says, I will take this story with me to my dying day.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
the government hides this stuff. And unfortunately, same as SETI, the search for extraterrestrials, that site, I've had a report from Beals Air Force Base. I was told I wasn't allowed to talk about that, which I don't talk about much. I'm not allowed to post a whole lot about it, but Bigfoot and UFOs, the paranormal part of that is amazing, how all this comes about. So
do you think do you think that because they've recently declassified a lot of the alien files, that one day they'll declassify the Bigfoot files too?
No.
That's a good question,
No.
Michelle.
Yeah.
Right now, barely, with all the congressional hearings that have been occurring, and then with a number of whistleblowers that are coming out stating that the government has had a program on not only studying UFOs but gathering the debris and trying to reverse engineer it in order to understand how these things work. That information is kept from the general public for a variety of reasons, And we have seen a number of changes occurring especially the last 5 years, with testimonies from military, from whistleblowers, to very high interest among the congressional congressmen, especially, and in these special committees. Um, they basically are saying yes, the phenomenon does exist. Well, by them saying that, we're not just looking at nuts and bolts. Phenomena, the phenomena itself, it includes a lot of other things. Includes crop circles. It includes cattle mutilations. It includes other strange sightings. So maybe, just maybe, this information will be released. Based on Daryl just pointed out an extraordinary incident where yet someone that was working for the government was observing these bodies that were being brought down by the firefighters or military personnel. So I think that there's probably more documentation elsewhere that will eventually be released. And the Bigfoot community there's a number of people that have been studying this for quite a long time,
Mm-hmm.
as well as on our side of the camp regarding the UFO phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, Ruben, the problem that we have, though, Miss Heaton and Ruben, is that when you have actual physical proof and you've done your due diligence, you've gone out in the forest, you've collected hair, you've collected stool, you've got a footprint, you've got pictures of a skull, you've got everything you need to prove that this thing exists. You send the hair to somebody that's reputable. They do the DNA study. They send it back to you and say, yes, this is a confirmed Gigantopithecus blackie. This is the real thing. And then the government steps in and tells you to be quiet. They hand you a gag order. They take away all your bones. This stuff has happened. I mean, this happened.
Mm-hmm.
They took, I mean, I was so defiant against the government for taking my stuff. I have 4 gag orders against me. I can't release what I have. But yet they can go and take a UFO and say, gee, there's a UFO right there in the sky. Let's take a picture. Let's put it on YouTube. Let's send it to the government. Let's send it to MUFON. Let MUFON handle it. MUFON is the closest governmental UFO agency that I can think of. How many UFO government agencies or Bigfoot government agencies do you know of? Not one.
None. Yeah.
None. Zero.
Mm-hmm.
But MUFON is right there. So the researchers for Bigfoot, like myself, we get the cream of the crop, the real thing. And what do we get? We get threatened.
Mm-hmm.
We get told we're going to end up in Gitmo. We'll be cleaning bathrooms in the bottom of the underneath Denver in the new city. I mean, IRS audits, tickets. I mean, we've been followed. I mean, the government won't allow it. I've even been to the point where when I have a picture of a skull that I took it home and I called the media, and it wasn't 30 minutes later and somebody was knocking on the door. It was an El Dorado County sheriff, a Department of Interior, and there was out on the street standing by a car was a Men in Black.
Wow.
One hand they had a search warrant, and the other hand they had a gag order. And what they do, came in my house and took my bones.
Wow.
So, it's Bigfoot is never going to be on the same level as MUFON. Never. Because the government will not allow it to happen. Ever.
Right. I recently had an experience where I was reaching out to the fire departments because I wanted to know, if they had any stories or anything. And I'm not even kidding, like half of them blocked me. They didn't want anything to do with me. They were like, nope. But then on the side, a couple of those firemen did join the Facebook group. So yeah. But it's hushed. None of them had talked to me. None of them has spoken out yet or anything. but
Oh,
I believe it. Yeah. And then there's a girl here locally who had an experience at Quartzville, and she went straight to the ranger station to tell them about it, and they just blew her off completely. They were
yeah,
like,
they will.
get out of here. Yeah.
They will.
It's odd. It's
They,
strange. I don't understand it. It's strange.
that,
Um,
just
and
some,
sh-
I'm
go
sorry,
go ahead.
Ruben, go ahead.
Oh, well, I wanted just to share some cases about the Bigfoot UFO connection,
Hmm.
just in general. Um, as Daryl was saying that some of the Native American groups referred to the Bigfoot as what, the Great Creator? Is that
The
correct?
creator. Yeah.
The Creator, and there's a number of other names that they have given it. What I find too quite interesting, Michelle and Daryl, is that the sightings of Bigfoot, it's not just a U.S. thing.
Hmm.
There's seen in Canada and Mexico,
Yeah.
other parts of Latin America,
Hmm.
even here in Northern California, we have a number of sightings that have been reported, and I'm sure Daryl can attest to that based on his experience. But
Hmm.
one of the things, there was a strange story, and this happened in the late 1800s, where a cattleman had listened to some stories from these Native Americans that referred to the Bigfoot as a crazy bear or crazy bears, and these crazy bears were being brought by these objects that they refer to as a moon shape, and
Hmm.
these objects will land, and these crazy bears or Bigfoot type creatures would be released, and later the occupants in those crafts, they were short, they almost looked human, like a human, like they had wore tight-fitting clothing and short crew cuts, and they were piloting these objects, and they were dropping these Bigfoot creatures, and then they were being uh, herded um, by the Native Americans there. So that was an interesting case. There's a lot more to it, but
Hmm.
there was another case, an incident that happened in Chile. And this happened back in 1981, where there was a Chilean architect and another gentleman that was served on as a judge, and they observed this large cylinder-shaped object on top of on top of a mountain, and it was about 240 feet in length. And what they observed was a Bigfoot-like creature descending. They observed this Bigfoot-like creature descending on a ladder from this object, and then the the creature was being had sensed that it was being watched, and then it immediately got back into the craft and then flew off. And this information came out and it was shared among the local newspapers here in Chile. Um, there's been other sightings back in '73 of Bigfoot-like creatures that were being seen um, in the escaping into the woods, and they were being followed by a 100-foot type um, 100-foot diameter object that had like a dome, and this is in Pennsylvania, in Fayette County. Um,
Huh.
that and I had a really interesting experience myself. Well, where I spoke with a gentleman in Puerto Rico, and he was sharing with me where he saw a Bigfoot-like creature staring right at him. That While the gentleman had a pair of binoculars and he was looking, and then he looked out there toward the jungle and then saw this Bigfoot-like creature staring back at him. And the later there was I was doing some research, and a fellow researcher from Cuba had also indicated that there's been a number of Bigfoot sightings. These creatures, they live in the caves there. So it's
Wow.
that's and they vary in size. That's one thing what I found that was interesting in there was an incident that happened in the state of Chihuahua. There's an area that is a UFO hotspot um, over the years, and there was this family that was visiting this small little town, and this town is noted for its abandoned silver mines. And supposedly, they saw two Bigfoot-like creatures coming out of the cave, and el hombre polido, the bearded or the hairy creature, the hairy man,
Hmm.
and saw they saw the creature, both of them, and they immediately went um, into their car, and they notified the police department, and that became big news down in that area. And they said that the creatures were not that big and bulky. They were about 6 feet, approximately 6 feet in height. And I'm wondering, Daryl, that maybe the terrain may have an impact on their growth in terms of you get the real big giants that live in the heavily wooded areas here in North America. But when you start going out toward a desert-like environment, just
Mhm,
maybe because of the food is a lot more sparse,
mhm.
water and the environment, maybe they don't grow compared to the height of what's been observed in Northern California, in Oregon, Washington, or elsewhere on the East Coast.
Well, on the West Coast, you always have your salmon run.
Yeah, good point.
Mm-hmm.
There's always the Smith River is full of fish 90% of the time. So you always got some kind of fish up there, and nothing's big gonna come out of Chihuahua anyway. I mean, honestly, I'm sorry. I was
What was
just
that?
sitting there on my tongue. I wanted to say that, but oh, Ruben, look at Ruben, look in the camera over there. So, but anyway, when I think it's not, it's like a polar bear, a brown bear, a grizzly bear, all of the bear species, every bear
Mm-hmm.
species is a different size.
Yeah.
It depends on your topography or your climate or your area where you live.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. I'll almost guarantee it's probably part of where you live. We're
Mm-hmm.
on average, a human being is 6 foot tall, but you go to some of these countries where food is sparse, and they're not as tall as we are. They're thinner.
Mm-hmm.
They're things like that. So yeah, I think the topography and all of that has something to do with how big they are. You know,
Definitely. Yep.
Michelle, do you have any sightings that you have seen?
No, no, I don't. I'm just fascinated and I want to have a sighting. It's not for lack of looking. I've looked,
Right.
so yeah.
Right.
I had a dream when I was it's a reoccurring dream and it started when I was about 5 years old and it was a Bigfoot and it went on until I was probably about 19. And I guess you could say I just became obsessed with it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because it was such a big part of my life. I mean, it was, it was just there all the time. Like, if not once a month, at the most once every 3 months, I would have it. And it was the same thing all the time. So, yeah, I guess I just kind of became obsessed with it. And, um, it's still in my mind. And yeah, I
See,
want to see one.
I live in the Appalachians. They got all kinds of monsters here.
I know. That's what I heard.
It's terrible. It's terrible here.
Mothman and
You
yeah.
know. Well, they have the Mothman, they have the Rake, they have the
Hmm.
Grafton Monster, they've got
Right. Yeah.
the Bigfoot, they've got the Dogman, they've
Yeah.
got the Little People of Tennessee, the Little People
Yes.
of, I mean, we're talking little people here. I mean, we're talking. They have the blood. What is it? The black-eyed children here.
Oh yeah.
Um, I mean, we're a phenomenon,
Yeah.
paranormal hotspot, and
Mm-hmm.
I live right in the middle of the Appalachians, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't have far
Daryl,
to go.
well, I was curious, what do you find different between we're living in the Appalachian Mountains compared to when you were living here in Northern California? Is there any difference
Out
or
here, out here, it's not big redwoods. Out here, it's
Right.
ash trees, oak, white cherry.
Mm-hmm.
It's but it's really thick, dense. Okay, I know we're running out of time. We did an investigation out in Ocoee, Tennessee, which is not far from my house.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a Bigfoot. It was during the time that I was in the headline part of the newspaper. And we went out there and it's very dense, even though it's small trees. The trunks are probably 12, 14 inches round. Just, redwoods are humongous trees.
Huge. Yeah.
But these little trees, they're everywhere. They grow so close together. You got to kind of fit through them. And if you're a big guy like I am, I'm overweight, but if you got to kind of squeeze through them,
Mm-hmm.
make yourself through. But we got out there, and the strange thing about it is that we were following footprints. But out here, there's so many monsters. We actually heard a cackling witch
Wow.
in the middle of the forest. I mean, a witch out there cackling. The first thing we thought of was a Wendigo.
Mm-hmm.
The shapeshifter, the woman, this woman, the team left. We didn't stay. It was frightening. I've never heard a woman's voice in the forest. I've heard piano notes, things like that out in the middle of nowhere, but never a laughing woman. And there's nobody around. I mean, honestly,
Right.
but the trees here, the forested area here is so different from California. And the redwoods, the redwoods are easy to hide in, but out here it's so easy to hide in because
Right.
there's so many. I mean, it is so much denser here.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's I don't know how else to say it. It's so dense here.
Yeah,
So,
I grew up in Michigan, so
yeah.
yeah, especially the northern part of Michigan and the UP is very much
Yeah,
like the mountains there. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And playing
Now,
in
see,
yeah?
the forest, that's all I did when I was younger. I loved it.
mhm.
And I was
So
yeah.
basically, you have the wilderness right there in your backyard,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, I can go outside and I'm already surrounded by trees.
Hmm.
I have an acre and a half of land in the back of my house. And
Wow.
as soon as I walk past the gate, I'm already in the Appalachians. So, and
Beautiful.
it's scary. It's not beautiful, it's scary. You know,
Yeah.
there are monsters out there that I don't want to deal with, and one's the
Hmm.
rake. And I've already
Yeah.
had 2 reports of the rake. So,
Really? That's
yeah.
really yeah, the rake is really creepy, but I haven't I guess I don't know.
What
I'm still kind of on the fence about the rake. I don't know.
can you just tell me what that is? Just for my ignorance, the rake.
The rake was originally a internet monster that was invented by somebody,
Hmm.
and it kind of grew on everybody, but it really is a creature. They out here they call it the barn dweller because we have abandoned barns out here. We have old buildings and abandoned homes, and the rake lives within those places. And we went out to rescue some cats one night, and we didn't think anything about it, and we just charged in. And we opened up the door and went in. We got the kittens, and on the way out, we heard some noise behind us and saw a white, almost like a white glowing head behind us coming up over the hayride part of it. And it's like, thank God I didn't turn my car off,
Oh,
And then I've gone to Chickamauga battlegrounds where the in Ringgold, Georgia, where the Civil War was at. I encountered the green-eyed monster there, got a black eye and a concussion because something hit me in the face. I fell down. I got 3 scratches on my stomach, which is the mark of the Trinity.
Hmm.
Ended up with a concussion for 2 weeks. I fired 3 rounds with a 9mm through it, and I'm a crack shot. I'm telling you, I'm good with a weapon. I fired 3 shots through it, and the thing didn't phase it. It just and it moved without walking. It just moved. So there's monsters everywhere out here. So
Yeah.
I'm very out here. I'm selective about what I go and look for. So but monsters will be monsters. I just don't see how people can be so close-minded. I just did
Yeah.
let me see, let me make sure I have a few more minutes. I just did a paranormal Bigfoot forum on Sunday.
That's
It was,
right.
I had 55 people there. It was closed door. It was invitation only. I packed the room. I showed some videos and some paranormal stuff and footprints. I showed my handprint, and the rest of my footprints and stuff. And the first question that always comes out of people is, do you think Bigfoot is paranormal? Yes, I do. And then the alien thing came up. I don't think Bigfoot is an alien. I think it's a real breathing, living creature that has the ability to transport or become interdimensional. Everybody says, well, is there more than one? Of course there is. Of course there's more than
Yeah.
one. You're not going to have just Patty running around in all 52 states or 50 states, including Ruben's area and the Orang Pendek and the Momo and the Rougarou and the La Rougarou and the Swamp Monster. And, it's not going to be just one creature. It's going to be many of them. They're finding species every day of something new. So
That's true.
I'm and different shapes of UFOs on a regular basis. I just watched some paranormal caught on tape the other night, and there was one that looked like a balloon mass, and the thing took off. So Ruben, I always think of you when I watch those. So that I always call you and say, Ruben, what do you got today? So
Yeah. The biggest amount of the most frequent object that's reported are usually spheres, orbs. That seems to be the most. Then it breaks down to um, triangles, boomerangs, flying discs, or circle shape objects, and that. You brought up, going back to what the Native Americans had named the Bigfoot being. And I mentioned about Mexico. There's up in the northern region of Chihuahua. Um, there's a large group of Native Americans. Well, actually, in Mexico, they're called the Tarahumaras, and the Tarahumaras had a Bigfoot legend. Basically, they referred to the Bigfoot as a giant, and legend indicated that these giants ate sometimes ate the Tarahumara, were known to eat Tarahumara children and sometimes women. This was part of the story behind that. And there was a primitive male mask that was found up in the Copper Canyon there in northern Chihuahua. And the mask appeared that it had this fearsome expression. It looked like reminiscent of a Yeti or Bigfoot. So, Daryl, I was curious too. Is that pretty much part of the lore that these creatures are cannibalistic?
no, they're not going to hurt you. They're not going to hurt you. They're just as scared of you as we are of them. They just want to be left alone. They're like any other animal. When you corner them, they're gonna react just like us. If you were ever cornered, we'll fight back. But I've seen 3 Bigfoot, and 2 of them were up close and personal, and all they wanted to do was run away. They didn't come after me. I've been pelted with rocks. I've been growled at. I've had my a rock hit me in the face. They just want to be left alone. And when you get close to them, they'll growl at you. That's a common thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see them, they just run away. Look at Patty. Look what Patty did. Patty didn't want to be around there. And you got Gimlin and Patterson, or Gimlin and Patterson both. Okay, so I'm going to make this quick here if I can make it quick. Why do hunters hesitate to pull the trigger? I just had a thing where I wrote a story and I posted it about a guy named Flag that was was a miner's kid, had a perfect aim on a Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot looked at him and kind of tilted his head a little bit, and Flag couldn't pull the trigger. Well, why didn't Patterson and Gimlin, why didn't they pull a trigger? They both had rifles.
Yeah.
You want to know why? Because this is a human looking thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're killing something that looks like a man, except he's got a lot of hair. You can't
Morally, it would
you,
feel wrong, right?
right. And if you watch all of the Patterson Gimlin film, not just Patty walking across the field, all of it, they've all got weapons, they've all got big rifles. They're all doing they have what is it? Patterson had a 40-50 with him. That's a 30-06 Winchester. That's a big round. That's a round that goes in like this and comes out like that.
Yet.
Never shot him. You know what he did? He stood there. They filmed him. So there's a stigma of killing one of these that people won't. They just won't do it. They just can't do it. I never go out armed. You know what I carry? A pair of tweezers to get the thorns out of my fingers. I carry bear spray and I carry bear bangers, and that's it. And we've encountered mountain lion. We bear banged them. We've encountered bears. We've bear spray. I will never carry a weapon out in the forest. People say you're stupid because you're going to get attacked. No, because I have bear spray on me. All it takes. You ever been sprayed in the face with pepper spray? It hurts. So, and I have. So,
right.
But nothing
Daryl,
is ever. Yes, sir.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're bringing up some good questions, some good points. But for someone who does observe a Bigfoot close up, what suggestions or what recommendations would you give to them?
Just stand there.
Just stare at him, stand there, or
no. Try not to make eye contact because that's a provoked sign. I don't know the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It's kind of like looking an angry dog in the eyes. You can observe it, but film it. Anything. I mean, yes, you're going to get ridiculed once you release the film. People aren't going to believe you, but who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
That's if you have the time to take a picture of it.
Yeah.
You saw it. Take a picture of it. Who cares? Who's going to deny you that? You have professionals that take pictures or look at your footprints and tell you they're fake. Well, I got news for them. They ain't fake. So
basically, you see something, do you back, like you're saying, you back up, but you keep your eye on the creature?
Oh yeah.
Or do you run?
I held my son-in-law in front of me backing up. I'm not going to. I didn't really, you guys. That was a joke. But
do you run? I mean, should you run?
It ran from us.
How about you yourself as a person observing?
No, I didn't run this time. It was my second one I've ever seen, and I stood there and was in awe. Took a couple pictures of it, and it disappeared. It took off in the forest, and it moved too.
It may be given the circumstance, you may want to run, right, to get out of that area.
Oh, I'm sure I could stomach up some speed out of my old legs. Yeah, I could get out of there. It might not be the grand 40-yard dash, but yeah, I'll run if it's coming after me. Think about bears. Bears will stand on its hind legs and look at you And if you mess with her baby, she's got to protect her babies. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, if you show that you're a threat to it, it's going to stand there and give you a dirty look. So
Makes sense.
What are the points of view that's going on in regards to UFOs? Is that if you see one close up and if it landed, um, keep a safe distance away from it. Don't go up and touch it. If you touch it, you really don't. You're putting yourself at risk because you really don't know the amount of energy, what kind of energies
Radiation and
this
whatnot. Yeah.
radiation or all these other effects,
Mm-hmm.
health effects that could happen,
Yeah.
as well as any damage to a person's body,
Mm-hmm.
because these energies can go through you and cause damage over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a good idea to just keep a safe distance. Of course, observe, but do so, but
And
at
leave it
a
at.
safe
Oh, okay.
distance.
I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ruben, how many UFOs have you seen in your lifetime?
Well, I had two significant sightings. One when I was a kid and living in Oakland. I saw an oval-shaped object. What was interesting about that, I was, I think, around 8 or 7 or 8. I saw this object. It was up in the sky, but it didn't move. And I thought, well, that's strange. How come that? And I called it a balloon. I said, why isn't that balloon not moving?
Mm-hmm.
And I kept looking at it, and then I thought maybe it's a blimp because we had a lot of blimps back then in that part of Oakland. We lived near Alameda, which Alameda was had a large naval air station base there, and of course they had these big blimps, and we had Moffett Field that was also part of the Navy, and we had a number of blimps. But I kept looking at the object, and then I just had this really strange feeling of being watched. And then I went back to my house. I believe it was the next day or day after. I was in the school ground and playing with my friends, and one of them looked straight up in the sky and he pointed his finger right up and he says, "Look, oh wow, a flying saucer." I That's how he said it.
Yeah.
And I started looking around, but I didn't see anything. But what hit me was, I wonder if that's what he's observing is what I saw the day before.
Right. Mm-hmm. I need the gate. Okay.
So
Oh, I'll be right back.
Okay. Then the other one. Oh, I wanted to share with you, Michelle, that I had sent you some pictures of crop circles,
Yes. Yeah.
and yeah, and that was what happened was back in 1994. I was with a group of researchers, and I saw this ball of light coming up, and then I looked through it through a powerful pair of binoculars, and
Mm-hmm.
this object was flat on the bottom. It had like a curve to it, like a dome. It was a
Mm-hmm.
very bright amber, bright orange, and then I saw it descending. I started yelling at my friends. I had a whistle and to catch their attention, and the object started to descend. And then I said to myself, I wish they would come back so my friends could see them.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, boom, 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 three of these balls of light came right up into the sky. Wow. And they were moving almost like forming like a triangle and that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm observing each of these lights, and they're identical, flat on the bottom with a curve from one end to the other.
Wow.
Very bright orange color. And then one of our guys, who's a professional photographer, grabbed his camcorder, and as he raised it to film them, this thought came to my mind, saying they're not going to allow themselves to be filmed.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, as soon as he aimed his camera, they disappeared.
Yeah.
And we found the next day in that general area, we found a fantastic crop circle that was shaped like a galaxy. It was just
Oh, wow. Nice.
And then that area that we were at, had a name. It was known as Golden Ball Hill.
Huh.
Isn't it?
Interesting.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
So that's when we start discussing: is there a UFO connection with crop circles? And then, of course, here we're talking about
Yeah.
connection with UFOs and Bigfoot.
Well, I hate to be the Grim Reaper, but you got about 2 minutes left.
Yep, I see it now. A minute and 50.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you for
You're
doing
welcome.
this for me. This was really awesome. It was a great conversation, and I'd love to have more.
Oh, down the road, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We'll
Whenever.
Awesome.
I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Michelle.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
God bless you guys. Have a good day, okay?
You too.
Bye-bye.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye.